Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And you've got the spiritual demon Satan, which is the top left-handed angel of the Most High, and you've got his physical counterparts on the planet Earth, the biblical Edomites, or these so-called white people. Hey, the father of lies, the devil or the deceiver that the Bible speaks of. And when the spirit of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai is dealing with you, hey, you're not ignorant of his devices, nor does he get an advantage of you. Hence, whenever this devil comes out with anything, in the mainstream media or events that take place, the spirit of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai is immediately on brothers to, look into it further. Hey, find the narrative and then filter it through the scriptures to show that this is just another trick, another wile of these Edomites, which brings me into the article I'll be profiling in this video on MediaITE.com titled Black Lives Matter Chapters Celebrate T Attack in Israel, Revel in Slaughter at Music Festival. And hey, what is one of the main things they always call the Hebrew Israelites whenever we get brought up in debates or the mainstream? The black Hebrew Israelites, which, as we always say, we are not the black Hebrew Israelites. And this truth of ours isn't mainly based on color. Of course, you've got the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the children of Israel. And what we say, what you traditionally think of as the Israelites. But then you've also got the Israelite foreigners who look like all the heathen nations on the earth, look like Edomites, Moabites, the so-called Chinese people, Elamites, the so-called East Indians, etc., etc. But again, hey, they want to put that label on us to where when the average person who doesn't dig deep sees information, they automatically label us as a black identity extremist group, a hate group, stuff like that. So with information coming out now saying Black Lives Matter, celebrates T attack in Israel, and when they come with that demonization campaign against us, and we can be thrown in with Black Lives Matter and these other so-called, black identity groups. But let's get into this article. Black Lives Matter chapters across the country are celebrating the T attacks that have claimed hundreds of innocent lives in Israel. And that's another narrative right there, because information's coming out now that Hamas's, surprise attacks on Israel weren't completely oblivious to, the 1948ers over in the Holy Land. Egyptian intelligence has said that they knew these attacks were coming and were constantly warning the 1948er government of it. But what happened? Nothing was done, and these attacks took place. And what's also interesting is that before these attacks took place, Netanyahu's government was in a lot of heat with the people in the land of Israel. They were against his judicial reforms, and protests were taking place. So what better way to, take the heat off of that than to say, look, we're getting attacked by T's out here. We need to unify the people in the country to go against this threat. Again, for we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Over the weekend, Hamas launched a brutal assault on 1948er civilians that included the beheading of babies, the mass rape of women, and the burning of men, women, and children alive, which, hey, this isn't one-sided. Look at what those 1948er settlers in those areas where the Palestinians dwell, as well as just what the IDF has been doing to those Palestinians over the decades is, they've done things, comparable to what they're saying Hamas has done to 1948er citizens. I can give some personal, testimonies from people, people I knew in the world who were Palestinians, who were over there themselves and saw these things firsthand. One of the most gruesome scenes took place at the Nova Music Festival, where over 260 attendees were killed by assailants, some of whom arrived in vans and some of whom came on motorized paragliders. Survivors reported that many of the women were raped before being murdered. The massacre was commemorated by the Black Lives Matter in Chicago, which posted a graphic of a paraglider, the Palestinian flag, and the caption, "I stand with Palestine," on X, formerly Twitter, Tuesday. And they used to have that image up, but they took it down. And what are we seeing now? Due to this whole situation taking place, there's a lot of divide amongst the people. Pro 1948er people, pro Palestinian people, et cetera, et cetera. And different governments are even talking about bringing out, censorship laws and penalties for those that fly the Palestinian flag, support that side instead of the 1948er side. An example of that is in Canada. So this event that took place has many facets to it to bring about more measures by the powers that be, further censorship, further controlling the narrative, and bringing about their GREATRESET, the NW0. On Instagram, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles also joined in the celebration, insisting that Hamas's resistance must not be condemned, but understood as a desperate act of self-defense. We too understand what it means to be surveilled, dehumanized, property seized, families separated, our people criminalized and slaughtered with impunity, locked up in droves, and when we resist, they call us T's, continued the chapter. And hey, when the brothers go out on the highways and byways and preach this word, as well as put up video epistles online, we bring up talking points similar to what was stated in this statement, because that's exactly what is happening to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Hey, we're constantly surveilled by what? Law enforcement, property seized. Look at what happened to this whole continent. It was illegally seized from, the so-called Native Americans, the so-called Latin tribes, families separated during the transatlantic slave trade. Even today, with families getting broken up, our people criminalized and slaughtered with impunity, no justice, no peace. Jake's getting gunned down in the streets by these cops, or just by these average everyday Edomite citizens, locked up in droves, the prison industrial complex, etc., etc. That's it with this article. But hey, again, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And like I was saying earlier, the reason, they put that black in front of the Hebrew Israelites is so that when they roll on us, they'll link us up with these different groups out here that have been set up and say that we're no different than them, that we're domestic teas, we're black identity extremists, etc., because, they have a lot of similar talking points that we do, and they're labeled as what? Extremist groups and stuff like that. And also, we know that Hamas is what they're Muslims, and supporting that can get you labeled as what? A religious extremist, Islamic extremist, and stuff like that, which for the longest time, they tried to link us to, that movement as well. Look at what happened to our apostles and elders during 9/11. When that event took place, hey, they were arrested in suspicion of having something to do with it, just because that there was a mosque down the street. And then we can't forget that Vocab Malone, another agent of the powers that be, constantly try to link us with Islam. And then you've got Louis Farrakhan now starting to, quote the Bible and bring up the Hebrew Israelites. And then IUIC, when you go to their 501c3 charter, they're labeled as a Muslim group. So again, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. A lot of these different groups being set up, they are set up specifically to come against this truth, because this is the number one thing that is a detriment to Esau Edom's power structure. We didn't have to pick up guns, train in paramilitary groups, rally the troops together, or anything like that. By simply preaching the words of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, we're bringing about the end of this man's system, as it says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, which it has, through the unicorn or the internet. Then shall the end come, the end of this current age or rulership of the heathens, chiefly of the Edomites, and the beginning of the age of the rulership of the children of Israel in the kingdom of heaven. And as it says in Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, this devil's about to come down in great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. We can clearly see that we're coming to the end of this thing. World War III is on the horizon. The MOTB is getting closer and closer to its rollout and mandatory implementation. Esau Edom is getting exposed for the devil that he is. Biblical prophecy upon biblical prophecy, it's coming to its fulfillment, etc., etc. So this devil is about to pull out all the stops to demonize the truth, and especially the men of the Lord that preach the truth, to get them off the highways and byways, to get this word off the internet. So when they roll on these different groups out here, set it up to make it seem like they're rolling on these groups that they set up themselves that controlled opposition, and then even going after these patriot and freedom fighter groups, we're going to get rolled up into it as well and be labeled as enemies of the state. We're going to be labeled amongst the transgressors, as it says in Luke chapter 22, verse 37. And this is Yahushua speaking. For I say unto you that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. He was labeled amongst the transgressors. He was considered a transgressor because what? When the Pharisees and the Sadducees came against Yahushua, they came up with a bunch of people to make false accusations against him, to label him as a detriment to, the nation. What did they say? If this man continues doing what he's doing, then the Romans are going to come and take away everything we have from us. And then when Yahushua was on the cross, he was reckoned amongst the transgressors. He had the thief on his right hand and he had the thief on his left hand. So what? If you saw somebody getting crucified amongst the less savory parts of society, what would you think? Oh, he's a criminal as well. He deserves it. So again, when they roll on these different groups out here during that great crackdown which is coming, we're going to get reckoned among them, labeled as enemies of the state, domestic tease, racial and black identity extremists. Hey, they're going to want to throw that jihadist and Islamist label on us as well. And you would think that if people just listen to our message, they would see that, look, we don't mainly push that this is a color issue. Hey, we're not Muslims. We're not for Black Lives Matter or anything like that. But again, the average person out here, he doesn't go deep into things. They just look at things on surface value. And a personal testimony I can give of that is this was years ago, at least a couple of years of me coming into the truth,
we were out prophesying, on the block, and an older Edomite walked up with his bed wench Eve wife. And, they stood there for a couple of seconds and listened to us. And but they walked away, and I didn't see any kind of emotion on their face or anything. But I remember that I had to leave camp early that day to go to work. And as I was walking away from the brothers, I just happened to end up right behind this man and his bed wench wife. And when they walked away from the camp, away from the brothers, that's when he started venting his frustrations. He was cursing us, calling us names, and said, you know what? I bet they believe in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And when you look her up, I believe she's an Ephraimite or a so-called Puerto Rican. She's that lady senator, or congresswoman or whatever the fuck she is, from New York. And when you look at what she believes in, she's for Black Lives Matter. She's for the Alphabet Group, socialism, all that, left-wing ideology, which we are against all of that. But, that Edomite who just looked at things at surface level, saw a bunch of so-called niggers on the block saying that the white man's the devil and he stole everything from us. So what's he going to think? Oh, they're left-wing. They're socialists. They're for Black Lives Matter. They hate America. All that. So when they come with this demonization campaign and put it on the mainstream media and, with this deep fake and AI technology, create footage and videos of us doing and saying things we didn't do, it's going to be easy for them to convince the masses that, look, they're exactly what we say they are, when what they're pushing us as in the mainstream is completely opposite of what we actually stand for. But again, as it says, and he was reckoned amongst the transgressors. And what does it also say? The servant is not greater than his master. If they have persecuted me, they will persecute you also. So what? We're going to be reckoned amongst the transgressors as well. We're going to be made an offender for preaching the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi. Now I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 29. I'm going to read verses 18 to 21. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book being the Bible, the Old and the New Testament, as well as the Apocrypha, which is a part of the Old Testament. And the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness, the elect of the nation of Israel, their spiritual eyes and ears being opened after hearing the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi from the prophets, coming back to their identity and doing whatever they can to stay in the good graces of their power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi. The meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel, because we see that this isn't it, that this, American lifestyle isn't the end-all be-all, that this captivity, this oppression, this second-class citizenship we're in has an end, and that end is quickly coming upon us, and then we're going to be at peace, ruling in the kingdom of heaven, for eternity, and having our foot on the necks of our enemies, especially you Edomites. Verse 20, for the terrible one is brought to naught, that terrible one being Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, beginning with his elites. And hey, they're being brought to naught spiritually right now with the prophets breaking down these scriptures and prophesying against him, being that spiritual prosecution team, bringing up all his crimes before the judge, Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi. And then the physical judgment is going to take place when Yahawashi makes the second coming to take away his rulership. And the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. Hey, they scorn and they scorn against us. They're going to come with this demonization campaign against us. And even the wicked of our people are scorners. They scorn against us on the comment boards and would put us to death if they could. Hey, they're going down with this devil as well. Everybody that comes against this truth is about to have their day, and that day is going to be deadly for them. Hey, but leading up to that, that persecution must come. That devil has to come down in great wrath, and his main target is this word, because like I said earlier, By simply preaching the word, we're bringing about the end of this man's kingdom. That make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught, making a man an offender for a word, labeling us as black identity extremists, domestic teas, enemies of the state for simply preaching this word. And they've already, have little instances here and there to try to pin on us when they fully come with this wrath. That incident that happened in New Jersey a couple of years ago with that kosher market, that Kanye West, Kyrie Irving thing. And then when they have all these different groups with that black label on them saying similar talking points to us, when they so-called come against them, they can say, look, they're just an offshoot of them. They have similar or the same talking points, so we have to get rid of them as well. But hey, if this is a part of biblical prophecy that we're going to be persecuted, hey, what comes after that to those that endure? Salvation, getting back at their enemies. So to you sincere Akim and Akwat out there, hey, stay vigilant out there and never lose faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, knowing that if you put your faith 144% in him, and when this time of tribulation during Jacob's trouble comes, hey, he's going to save his elect out of it. We're going to see salvation, be in the kingdom, and rule over those that persecuted us and get our licks back then. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.